I'm Roger Wood for Work Opportunities Unlimited with another in our series, Sounds of Success. True stories of how our valued teammates have created success in the workplace. Work Opportunities Unlimited teammate Jamie Crowell has been with the organization for over a year now.
I was just searching online, and I found Work Opportunities, the company, read into it a little bit, got a little bit of the history on it, and then I decided that it was definitely something I was interested in doing as far as what the requirements were and what they were looking for.
What is it in your background that makes you want to help people like you do?
I just find that I'm a people person. I love to meet new people. I love to talk to people, and basically I think that's what I'm here for. I don't have a problem approaching people.
Let's focus on David for a minute. Can you give us a little insight as to what challenges he had to overcome to be successful, to be employed?
Actually, David is a very hard worker, and his family doesn't give him, they didn't know what his abilities were, what he was capable of doing, as far as, they don't let him do as much as he could do. And if you tell him something like, David, can you go and, pick those weeds over there, any direction you give him, he seems to just take it and run. He's very good with remembering things and what he wants to do if he really enjoys it. And it actually, with the job that he has, it came from a long family history because his father owned a landscaping business and his older brother had taken on the company when his father was sick. And David would go to work with his brother, and so he grew up around it. So it was one of his strengths.
That's also something that you had to discover, what strengths he has. Can you give us a little insight as to how did you work to overcome the issues that you identified in him and, uncover the strengths and ultimately successfully place him?
I actually looked at David's work history and who he had worked for before, what he had done, his likes and dislikes, and really went through things that he would do at home, activities that he liked to do, projects that he would do with his mother, and then just things that go on with his family that actually occur. And then that's when I realized that working with something, whether it's watering plants or potting or doing some type of landscaping, he really enjoyed it because he said it was a man's work. So once I found that out, and I kind of put together pictures and a book for him to identify things, to see where his strengths were in that area, what he could identify, what he could tell me, and I took it from there and just went with it.
David is employed at Stratum Circle Nursery in New Hampshire. How did you specifically locate them and cultivate them to be willing to take a chance on David?
I actually drove by the Stratum Circle Nursery, which is right near David's house, and saw that they were hiring. So I went in there and I talked to somebody and they said to call back. So I went through a couple of people and I kind of went in and I said, listen, this is what he can do, explained work opportunities and what the company does, and found out how David would benefit them. And they actually had never hired somebody like David to come in and work for the company. And when I said, he can do this, he can do that, and, what are your needs? And they explained to me what he could do. And it was things that have to get done, but other people were busy working with customers and they didn't have the time to get to those. And I was like, David can do that. So they basically hired him on to see as a trial how things would go, and they ended up really loving him and his work, and he got offered the position again next year. David will be returning to the job in April, and they kept him on until October. They start slowly letting people go, but because they wanted to keep David in the swing of things and he was an asset to the company, they kept him on until the end of October.
Do you need to monitor his work on a consistent basis?
When David first started at the Stratum Circle Nursery, there was somebody with him the whole time. They were very nervous about it. They didn't know, how to deal with it or what was going on or what issues may occur. But the more that we created the bond between David and his coworkers and his boss, they started to feel comfortable with David. And then we started to fade out a little. I was like, well, I'm going to come in about an hour late, so David would be alone for an hour, and they knew, or if I had to leave or anything like that. And his natural supports really kicked in as far as, checking on David, making sure he had the direction that he needed. There were some issues at the beginning that needed to be addressed as far as how they were giving him direction, what his needs were, with more detail as to what he was doing versus just giving him a tool and say, go to this area. So definitely being specific as to what they wanted David to do, and he had no problem understanding that.
Yeah, I was interested in that aspect that you just mentioned, and that is how he gets along with his coworkers and his supervisor.
Oh, as far as David getting along with his supervisors and his coworkers, the natural support is definitely there. And David fits in perfectly. He's a social butterfly. He gets along. He talks to everybody. They're very willing to talk to him, to stop what they're doing. And since David's been there, he's grown a lot as far as what the needs are. At the beginning, they may have had to direct him to go and help unload a truck when it came in. As time went on and he was picking weeds and going by the truck that just came in, David would stop what he was doing, go over, and help them to unload the truck. He does have difficulty reading, and they do understand that. So when he's unloading the truck, his coworkers would tell him where things had to go. They would help to direct him. So that was very good. As far as David communicating with customers and talking to everybody, his boss, actually, Wilson, gave me information because he said that he had watched David and a customer had gone up to him and said, "Do you know where I can find this?" And he just stood back and let David, communicate with the customer as far as where it was going. And he said the bush with the flowers, and David was able to direct this man to where the flowers that he was looking for. And Wilson was just absolutely amazed by that. It was really good to know that David was watching everything that his coworkers, and he's really like a sponge. He takes everything in and he goes with it. He was trying to sell. He had somebody come and visit him, his case manager, and he was trying to sell her flowers.
Jamie, is there a point at which your team, yourself or other team members, can completely back away from his case and let him go free?
I think with time, once David gets in this year, it'll be his second season with them. Once he gets in there and gets into the swing of things again, I think that he would definitely be able to be independent at work. He doesn't really need anybody. He knows where all the tools are. He knows where everything is. So basically, once David starts his job and we fade out, we want the natural supports to be able to kick in and have him, if there is any problems, be able to go to his coworkers. And David's definitely on the right direction with the support that he has at the Stratum Circle Nursery.
Is there something to be learned from this placement, either something you learned from it or something some other team member might benefit from, specifically with David's case?
I would have to say carving out a job and making sure that when you're placing clients, that you're looking at the client and seeing what they want to do and what will make them happy versus just placing them in something. And then even if there is a challenge or an obstacle to what they may want to do, actually putting the time into it to find that perfect job match for them and making sure that they're successful at that place and making sure that the company that they're working for, the people are also supportive to your client and that it's a good working environment for them.
Jamie Crowell, part of Work Opportunities Unlimited, Sounds of Success. I'm Roger Wood.